Hey, welcome back to another video. I'm Ivan Calderon, and today I'm going to share with you 3 ways to get rid of beat block. So a big part of being a producer, and really just a creative mind in general, is occasionally getting stuck in your creative process. For us in the producer community, we refer to this as beat block, and it can be frustrating, especially when you want to be creative, but you can't seem to turn your ideas into music. Now, I too have had my fair share of beat block over the years, but I've also picked up a few ways to get rid of it. So today I'm going to share with you my 3 personal favorite ways to get rid of beat block and get back to creating. So without further ado, let's jump right in. Okay, so tip number 1 is to change up your routine. Now, as humans, we are creatures of habit, and for the most part, having habits and routines are a good thing. We are consistently being bombarded with thoughts and decisions on a daily basis, so having a routine that we can default to is a great way to reduce stress and increase productivity. Occasionally, though, we'll begin to plateau, and when that happens, it can be a good idea to change up the way we do things. In our case, it can mean a couple of different things, but it doesn't have to be complicated. For example, if you start your beats with drums, try to start them out with melodies moving forward. If you create original melodies, try sampling or vice versa. Maybe it could be as simple as reorganizing your hard drive in such a way that it makes beat making faster. Or maybe if you have the ability, it could mean taking your rig outside of your studio and creating somewhere else. The point though is to change up the way we do things to stimulate our brains in a different way and still get the results that we want. Now, in my experience, as producers, we're already familiar with this technique, but the problem is that we also oftentimes pair it up with gear acquisition syndrome, and we think the only way or the easiest way to change up the way we do things to add new inspiration is to buy new VSTs or new plugins. I am 100% guilty of doing this myself, and while yes, that definitely does count and can bring in new inspiration, there are plenty of different ways to change up the way you do things, like the ones I mentioned before, that can get you the same results and for free. So then the next time you get stuck making a beat, think of different ways that you can change up your beat making process to bring in new inspiration. Moving on, tip number 2 is to collaborate more. I've mentioned this one before, and I'm going to continue to mention it because this is as much for me as it is for you. I think in the beginning of most of our creative journeys, we tend to keep our craft, and in our case, our music, close to our chest, and maybe it's because we're afraid to let somebody else into our creative process and have them ruin it, or maybe it's simply because we're afraid to give up control. I've been through every possible situation, the ones I mentioned before and more, but the one thing that I've noticed over the years that I've realized is that music is not meant to be created alone. Take, I don't know, an instrument for example, or a vocal. By itself, it can be great, but it's not until you pair it up with other instruments or other vocals that you get something really, really beautiful. The best part about collaboration is that oftentimes it'll also bring in new ideas that otherwise would have gone unexplored. There has to be thousands and thousands of producers out there right now as we speak, and even though at the core we all do the same thing, which is to produce music, what separates us is the fact that we all hear music differently. Collaboration opens the doors for new opportunities and new ideas that, like I said before, you probably would have never thought of, and that ultimately makes the music better. So again, tip number 2, if you're feeling stuck, reach out to another creator and collaborate. All right, so this last tip is going to sound a bit contradictory at first, but tip number 3 is to simply walk away. Now, this one was specifically hard for me to get used to, and I'm not really fully comfortable with it yet, but I can't deny the fact that it works. Now, if you're anything like me, then you like to get things done, and one of my biggest pet peeves is having some sort of problem or obstacle in front of me that I can't seem to solve or get over. Often I'll sit down to create, and there will be times where I sit down for a while and I can't seem to get anything down, and for whatever reason my first instinct is just to keep going until something sticks. Now, there's nothing wrong with chipping away at it because sometimes that's really all you need, but often we'll also reach a point that no matter how much you try, you can't get anything done. Everybody has a different threshold for when this happens, but the important part is to realize when it happens and then just move on to another task or just simply walk away. It seems a little strange, but sometimes all we need is to clear our mind and get a different perspective, and ironically enough for me, it is often when I'm outside of the studio that I get my best ideas. For me personally, I've noticed that when things are running smoothly, I'll make a beat within the first 30 minutes or so. Sometimes it takes longer, but that's usually my process. If for whatever reason I can't seem to get anything done within the first half an hour, then I either move on to the next task or I just take a break. By the way, when I say get anything down, I really just mean anything. You don't have to finish a whole beat, but at least have something that you know is good enough to turn into something else, keep the momentum going, and keep the wheels turning. Now again, everybody has a different threshold for when this happens, but the important part is to realize when you've hit that point and move forward. Maybe you can come back to that idea later, maybe not, but the one thing that I've also realized over the years is that good music, whatever that means to you, is never forced. All right, so those are my 3 personal favorite tips to get rid of beat block that I've used countless times over the years. But since you stuck with me till the end, I'm gonna give you a bonus one. Down in the description on the first link, you're gonna find my free production toolkit. The kit is completely free and it includes 5 original sample loops along with all the major and minor scales and their triad chords in MIDI format to help jumpstart your creative process. This one's more of a resource than a tip, but it should help you nonetheless. Again, the kit is completely free and you can get that by clicking the first link in the description. But that's it for me. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to pick up a copy of my free production toolkit. And as always, like this video if you like to, subscribe if you're not already, but I'll see you on the next one.